Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. I was reading your comments and saw this viewer said, "Love Koji, probably my second favorite player of all time." So, naturally I asked him, "Who is your favorite player of all time?" He replied to me. Did he just say what we think he said?
The game hasn't started, you already have no corners. He is in Boyomi, but swimming in casual. Water is yours, is not really yours. He robbed your wallet, your house, and your everything. Oh, Cho Chikun, he loves the cash. Oh, the cash, your cash and mine. Oh, Chikun, you are so rich. You are the cash.
Today's game is the game 7 of the Kisei title match that happened in 1985 between Cho Chikun and Masaki Takemiya. I'm pretty sure pretty much all of my viewers know who Masaki Takemiya is, but in case you don't know, he is he is the most famous player for knowing how to build center and moyo, unlike all the other professional players which are good at territorial style. He's the only one who only focuses on the center and building giant moyo. So this game is actually very important for Masaki Takemiya because it's his good chance. Right now at this point the game is 3-3 for Masaki and Cho. If he wins this game, he becomes the champion of the Kisei Cup, which he has never done before. Masaki is playing as black in this game, and he opens up with his favorite Sanrensei, and this is pretty much all what he plays is the center, building moyo, and then he doesn't care too much about the corners and the sides. But of course Cho, all what he cares is the corners and sides. Cho approaches, Masaki counter approaches, Cho pincers looking for a fight. Cho really wants to drag Masaki into an early fight, but Masaki decided to use his excellent vision for direction play and just play the 2-space high pincer. White goes into the corner, as he always does, and then just immediately take a lot of territory. Masaki now connects the moyo over here. And Cho, instead of playing something more balanced, for example, maybe we'll play an approach trying to suppress black, or just play a more territorial move which fits Cho's style. Cho decided to play something even more extreme. That's to kick the stone and attack black. So not only Cho gets the territory, but also he attacks black. And this is what Cho loves to do. A lot of times people will be like, oh, Cho is about territory, which is true. He loves the cash. But what he also likes a lot is basically protecting territory, but also putting a lot of counter attack on his opponent. If you watch enough of his game, I personally haven't watched enough of his game, but I've seen some games where this happens a lot. Masaki now jumps out. So here, if you just extend, this is not a good choice because white can play the Kema and just attack black stone, and this is quite heavy for black. If black decides to go ahead and just play like this, now eventually that these white stones will put a lot of negative, basically put a lot of pressure on black's influence, and this is not what black wants to do. Black jumps out, white plays the Kema because that's still the best move to put pressure on black's group. Black pushes on top, white hanes, and then black hanes on top. So instead of cutting and drag into a fight, Masaki follows up with his direction of play, that is to focus on building the center. Next up, we have Cho approaching, black answers, and then Cho hops back, forming his own sort of framework. Black approaches, white jumps, and then black plays a beautiful 2-space high extension, not only strengthening the group over here, but also putting pressure on white. It's a very nice move. So at this point, there are many choices for Cho to continue, and all of them are pretty much valid. So a more balanced approach is for white to play a big knight over here. That is to not only expand his own moyo, but also suppress black. This would be a very interesting move to play. Also, he could be looking at the big knight over here, right? We're looking at some weaknesses over here and also suppressing black's moyo over here. These are very good directional moves. But then we can see Cho's style. He is just nothing but territory, right? So yeah, this is so extreme as a move that I personally find, and that shows Cho's style. Like, if you don't see this kind of move, then that's not Cho's game. Black extends, white crawls again, and then black extends once again. So it looks like white gained a lot of territory, but black stones over here also is going to hurt white stone's vitality over here. So at the end of the day, it's not necessarily a good trade for white over here. Next, we have Cho doing his thing. He plays the invasion. So what is mine stays mine, but what is yours is also mine, right? That's the Cho's philosophy. So against this move, it is not a great idea to block on top and let white live on the bottom. And therefore, Masaki decided to play a very solid move, at least protecting the left side. So at this point, we all thought, well, probably Cho's style is going to jump out and just like destroy everything. But apparently, in this game, Cho played a very beautiful move. That is to play the big knight I was talking about. So this move suppresses black, but also builds his moyo. But then, as we can see, Cho is also a very flexible player, right? He plays invasion when everybody thinks, well, he's going to do his thing and live this group. He actually decided to play the sacrifice. He basically going to sacrifice the stone over here, which is very interesting. Against this move, black basically attaches in the weight, putting pressure on the stone, but also indirectly kill white stone over here. So because of black stone over here, this stone is pretty much dead for a professional player. White honeys, black extends, and now Cho, of course, once again, will go into your corner and take cash. Black blocks, white plays the honey, and black strengthens his center. White connects, and so a lot of times we would just block here as amateur level player and play like this. But actually here you can see Masaki's style. He doesn't really care too much about the corner. Rather plays in the center, and that's what he loves to do. And now Cho is a little bit worried about the center, of course. Now, the local follow-up, of course, is for white to play the tiger's mouth. But if Masaki is able to get the center move, this is still playable for white, but as we can see, this is totally playing into Masaki's hand now because he has very connected moyo. So whenever your opponent has one moyo, it's not that worrisome. But when they have a connected moyo, like their moyo here, and moyo in the center, it's incredibly hard to break, especially against Masaki, who is simply the best player at playing moyos. So someone as extreme as Cho realizes that, and then he decided to actually reduce black right now because he's kind of worried about it. And now Masaki plays the center move. This is a very nice move, completely killing off white stone over here and also protecting the moyo on the left. It could be considered a little slow, but I personally, I can't really criticize this move because if you don't play this move, I'm not sure what you're going to play exactly in this position. It's not so easy. Okay, so Saki plays this move, and Cho, of course, does what he loves and just plays the tiger's mouth. And Masaki has to stop that because otherwise there's all kinds of, kema going on that's going to break a lot of territory. So even if Masaki loves the center, he still has to protect the site because Go is a game of points. Next up, we have Cho attaching on top, black Hanes, and now Cho really showed his style. In this game, I think both players just showed their style in an extreme way, actually. So here, I would at least play the extend up. This obviously is not a very nice move. Probably there's something better than this. But my thinking would be, well, at least I can strengthen this area a little bit and therefore make my stone over here safer. And then allows me to jump in, with more confidence. But look at what Cho plays. This is just crazy. So there's never enough cash for Cho. So he decides to grab more cash. If it's $1 or $10, he doesn't care. He needs to take them all. Masaki, Atari's on top, Cho connect. So at this point of the game, there are many choices. If you were gonna play black, some of us would be thinking, well, how about we just extend down and at least getting rid of some of the territory from Cho, so he's not too happy. Or some others would be thinking, well, maybe we'll just try something like this, a shoulder hit trying to like enclose the center. If white decide to push and cut, we just fight it out. It's not a bad idea either. I'd also be thinking about, well, what if we can just cut white off over here? This is a great idea if it actually works. The problem is white can attach black on here. And it's a very complicated fight in here. And yeah, you have to play very accurately with this fight. But it seems like white has a way to manage this connection, actually. And that's where Masaki, at this very famous moment in the final game of the Kisei title, showed his talent, showed why he's the best player when it comes to building Moyo. The next move, Masaki attaches into white. This is a very high level idea. So instead of attacking directly, we can poke at our opponent's weakness, and depending on our opponent's reaction, how are you going to play locally, then I decide what I'm going to do about your stone over here. So let's look at the few variations. I'm not going to go through all the readings in here, but just to show you what this move is actually doing. This is actually a very famous tesuji. So if white just connects, of course this is the best move to protect the stone over here because it leaves no aji. The problem with this move is black can jump first. Now, it would definitely hurt Cho or anyone if black's going to live here with a lot of territory, and therefore white needs to block. But after you block tactically, this is collapsing for white because black can hane. When white cuts, black ataris, white connects, and now black pulls the stone back. And then this liberty fight is not going to work very well for white. So for example, if white peeps in, black can just connect. If you push up, then I can hane. And because my exchange here, you have no choice but to crawl your stone back, and that would be game over probably for Cho Chikun if the game plays like this. And of course, the game won't play like this. So what about another way to resist, right? If white plays the squeezing move, then black can just hane. White cuts, black crawls. It looks like this is a suicide for black because the two stones on the bottom is captured, but then black can hane on top. And because of this hane, there's no way for white to disconnect these two stones. If white plays the kosumi, black can push. And when white tries to connect, then there's a throw in tesuji, and this is definitely the moment for white to resign because either the 2 stones or the 5 stones will be captured. But the problem is, if white can't really disconnect the 2 groups over here, white has to go back and capture. And now, what black can do is just to push on top. Not only white lost a bunch of territory by black piercing through here, the other problem is these stones also make the connection over here very weak. And this is a very big leading game for black if white plays like this. Now, if white plays anything like the hane, then there's a crosscut over here. That's also annoying. It's looking at the atari over here, and then there's also an atari on the 3rd line. So it's a miai situation. Also not easy to deal with. And finally, if white extend down, this is actually a little bit similar to the game, except this is just worse than the game. This exchange actually creates a wedging threat over here for white. And white stone here is just simply too passive. So in the actual game, instead of extending down, Cho plays this move. Not only secures more territory, strengthens the connection, but also putting pressure onto black over here. So later on, there's some end games that white can play to gain some points. But Masaki has gained something with this move because of this exchange. Now there's some liberty problems for white 3 stones here, and now Masaki decides to attack in the center. Against this move, if white attaches, then we can see why this stone is so good for Masaki and why this was such a brilliant tesuji. That's because black and Hane, white cuts, black now Hane's back, and white plays the extend. But when we connect over here, all of a sudden we can see that this exchange creates a sente for black over here, forcing white to basically connect, and then black connects on top, and this just breaks white's territory and creating threats onto white's corner a little bit as well. And also not to say that there's a very serious extension over here, so white pretty much has to fix it right now. So this would also be a very good fight for black. So Cho read all those variations out, and he decided to not respond locally, which is a very wise choice. Instead, white decides to cut on top. And here, a lot of players would just probably connect on the bottom. It's a huge move, but this wouldn't be a great move because white can extend on top, and this extension would really help the stone in the center. In the actual game, Masaki once again showed the world his talent. That is to Atari on top. When white extends, then there's a netting move over here, another tesuji by Masaki. So at this point, one tesuji and then another tesuji. Those are all very famous tesuji at the time, and this combination is just like really making this game very exciting and very famous. So when black nets on top, if white plays the Atari here, black will connect on top. And this Atari doesn't really have much value, and this connection has a lot of value for Masaki for killing the stone over here. So this exchange is really not great for Cho. Now, if white pushes on top, black is going to block on top. When white Ataris, we will connect on the outside. White takes, and then we Atari, forcing white to go back and capture, and then we extend on top. This forces white to Kosumi and get his stone back. But as we can see at this point, short, the center, is kind of destroyed by white, but not completely, because black can still always jump back and protect the territory over here. So black might not do this immediately, but this is a big move. But the problem is, because of how thick black is here, this stone pretty much is automatically dead, and there's a lot of potential for building territory on the bottom. So this is also a leading game for black. That's why Cho did not choose either variations. In the actual game, he played the Atari on the 4th line, which is the correct move. Now Masaki responds with the blocking on the 3rd line. This is probably, I would say, an inaccuracy from Masaki. A better move is for him to just directly connect on top. Now against this move, if white plays the Hane, black Ataris, and then white connects. So try to remember this shape, and let's compare that to the actual game. So in the actual game, when black blocks, white takes, and then we connect on top, and Cho plays the Atari. Now the problem is, Masaki realized that if he connects like this, white will capture like this, and white is extremely solid. If you still remember the previous shape, you can tell that black has exactly the same shape, but white is looking a lot better because he captured the 2 stones here. While back then, there were no captures over here. So that would make a big difference in the endgame. Which is why Masaki decided to Tanuki and not play the Atari, because he knows that he made a slight, whether you call it mistake or inaccuracy, but he does not want to play this Atari move and just suffer the loss. In the actual game, he plays the extension move, completely cutting off white's stone here. This is obviously a very urgent move because otherwise white still has ways to basically revive the stone over here. So at this point, as we can tell, this is a total territorial versus influence game. And at this point, the game is still quite close. Okay, now surprisingly, we are going towards the endgame very early into the game. And this game doesn't have as many moves as you would expect from a normal game. We have white now refuting the rights for black to Atari here, because it's still a very big move. Black jumps, and now white pokes at the center. And of course, Masaki blocks that. White honeys, black extends, and white takes the very big move on top. This is absolutely a gigantic move. Black blocks, white connects, and leaves a very serious weakness of this clamp over here. Therefore, black decides to fix in the center. This strengthens the center, but also gets rid of the aji that white has over here. Next up, we have white still poking the center and also strengthening his own territory. Black blocks, and white comes back and fix the side problem. Otherwise, black has at least an attach to break white's territory. At this point, the game is still super close. And I'd say at this point, this is a favorable position for Cho Chikun. Even if the game is very close, Cho Chikun is just a better endgame player, in my opinion. Next up, we have black plays the tiger's mouth, white blocks, black ataris, and white connects. So here, this is a very difficult endgame, but basically, Masaki made a small mistake here. The correct move is for black to cut instead of playing the tiger's mouth and atari. In this way, white will extend towards up, and black extends like this. So the reason black cannot push down is because white can cut black off, and black cannot lift down, on the right side, and therefore black needs to pull the stone back, and white will pull the stone back as well. So this variation is 1 point more than the variation that black played in the actual game. And at this point, you can kind of tell that even if Masaki played super well in the middle game, and he showed how much talent he has towards, when it comes to Moyo and center, when it comes to the endgame, Cho is just absolutely a beast and an expert at it. So unfortunately for Masaki, this game is super close. So it's not like he's slaying the dragon and there's no way for Cho to come back. This is actually very equal position at this point. Okay, and now Masaki jumps down. A very good move. This completely breaks any territory that white has over here. And white now plays the Hane on the first line. This is a sente, and it's a 5-point sente. Black has to extend. Now for the more maybe double-digit Q player, you cannot block here because white has an Atari. When black takes, we can Atari on top, and this leads to a very serious problem for black. And therefore, black has to extend. White keeps scrolling, black blocks, white connects, and now black connects here. So this is... if we look at where my mouse is, this is 4 points for black lost, and then there's an extra point gain for white. So therefore, this is a 5-point sente. White now jumps down to make sure that black cannot jump in. Black jumps on the other direction, white pushes, black blocks, and now white comes back and blocks. Black pushes on the bottom, white honeys, black plays the honey, white plays the tiger's mouth, and then black decides to pull the stone back. This is a very big move, otherwise white will Atari here and claim the entire territory. White now plays the connection or empty triangle. This is looking at a clamp into black's territory, a very serious threat. Black connects, white hanes connect. Of course, Cho is not going to miss any of these sentes here, the very big sentes. And white now comes back and plays the tiger's mouth. And as you can see, all the sequence that Cho played here shows him he has very solid endgame. And now Masaki decided to come back and, this is basically a sente. Otherwise, white's going to make a tiger's mouth and it's going to break into the territory. White crawls, black connects, and white pushes on top. Black cuts. This is probably a time tesuji. Probably at this point, the people are in Boyomi. And black pushes on this side. Of course, this is a very big sente. White blocks, and here there's no way basically for black to break in here. Therefore, he doesn't do it. Black plays the bump. This is a absolute sente looking at a clamp over here, and therefore white plays the tiger's mouth, a very solid. If you play the connection here, this will be a mistake because it allows black to hane connect in sente. And therefore, the tiger's mouth is the shape move and is the best for the endgame. Black cuts, white connects, And black goes ahead and honey on the first line, a very big move. White blocks, black connects, and now as we can see, black has a little bit points here. Now, Cho plays an eye here. This is 1 point, and black has to respond to this, and therefore he has to squeeze white over there. And we have Cho Chikun basically wedge and connect. This is causing a little bit of weaknesses. Therefore, black goes ahead and fix it. White pushes, black connects, and then Cho plays out the entire sequence. Was able to gain this point in Sente. Very nice sequence. White Ataris, black connects, and now white bumps into black. Now, because of the minor endgame mistake that black played over here, that lost Masaki 1 point, and also, the mistake before where he should have just connected instead of blocking on the third line. So Masaki played extremely well this game. Unfortunately, Cho played very well as well. And it turns out to be a very close game. And this game would be decided kind of by the end game. So it's very hard to count how many territory both player has, probably over 100 for both players, but it's extremely close right now. The good thing for Masaki is at the time, the Komi is only 5.5 points instead of the 6.5 or 7.5 in China. So because of the Komi difference, black was able to maintain equality for quite a while. Now, at this point, if Masaki had the time to actually do a very detailed count of the points, he would realize that he's behind. In the actual game, he decided to just block here. But of course, if you want to fight for the win, here is your last chance. You have to push into Cho. Now, of course, if Cho just connects, we come back and block it, and this would be a 1 point gain for black. And therefore, black would have a little bit more chance in this game. But unfortunately, when black pushes in, the other variation that is very interesting is for black to go for the destruction. Black pushes down. Now, because of the liberty issues here, white has to connect. Black harness. Still liberty issues, so white has to go back and fix the cutting point. And the black comes back and fix the center. So both players were able to destroy each other, and this becomes a lot more chaotic if the game plays out like this. And this gives Masaki a lot of chances. So probably Cho knew that I'm pretty sure Cho knew at the time that he was ahead. And therefore, if Masaki plays the turn, he would have connected. I think that's what he would have done. I'm not sure. But after this, still a very close game, slightly better for white. But in the actual game, what Masaki did was that he missed his last chance. And he blocked on top, which allowed Cho to immediately block this. And therefore, we see an extra point popping out over here. Okay, so at this point, this is more or less a losing game. It's not a half-point game anymore, and both players played pretty accurately towards the end game. The very end game where it's all like 1.2 points, so it's just some 1.2 points end games, and then at this point, the game is determined, and at the end of the day, Cho was able to win this game by 1.5 points, and he became the champion for the Kisei title in 1985. And I think this is the third time consecutive Kisei title. So very unfortunate, I'd say, for Masaki. He's a fantastic player that is loved by the Go community worldwide. But unfortunately, he never got his Kisei title in Japan.
And as always, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. If you want to support my work, check my Patreon page. Link is in the description. I will see you guys in the next one.